Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Now, I don't know why you people hate on Adam Sandler. The guy just put $152 million into the New Jersey economy. That's where I live. Yes, the filming of Happy Gilmore 2, a fine film. You should watch it. Pumped a record-breaking $152.5 million into the New Jersey state economy over 64 shooting days. How can you not love Adam Sandler movies? Happy Gilmore 2 averaged $2.3 million in daily spend, including $6.4 million on extras and $1.2 million on lodging. Some of the places this was shot: golf courses in Bedminster, Bloomfield, and Montclair, private homes in Irvington and Belleville. Some of the backdrops included Newark Liberty International Airport, where I was just this morning, and Fairleigh Dickinson University, where I work. Adam Sandler and I work at the same place sometimes. Tim Sullivan is the NJEDA CEO and said New Jersey has become a happy place for filmmakers. He credits the state's competitive tax credits, local talent base, and location diversity. Can we get some tax benefits for basement podcasters? Is that a thing? Should I, stop recording and look this up? Maybe it is. John Crowley is the executive director of the state's film commission and says, from golf courses and universities to airports and beaches, New Jersey has everything a production company desires. And thank you, Adam Sandler and Happy Madison Productions. They're already filming another project here in New Jersey. It is the teen musical Don't Say Good Luck, and how could that possibly be terrible? It is filming in Cranford, Livingston, and Ridgewood. Newsweek caught up with Marc Maron, who's the most popular comedian right now. Unofficial survey seems. They were curious. You don't hold back in this special on Trump, progressives, etc. What made you not hold back? Maron said, I don't know that I ever have. I also know my audience to a degree, though I did make choices around the tone of the stuff. I do comedy 3-4 nights a week, sometimes at the Comedy Store in LA, and I see people up there not talking about it. I'm like, what are we doing? It used to be like, hey, do you have to talk about politics? Is politics really that funny? I've always talked about it, but I do think it's beyond politics now. It used to be you'd be lucky if you saw the president on TV 4 times a year, and that wasn't that long ago. So now it's 20 times a day. So if you're paying attention, you have to reckon with even just that fact. And I think there's an arc to this special, and there has been to my other specials. I feel like over time, especially the last 2 specials, there's really almost a 3-act structure to it. And I thought, look, let's get this out now. My people are generally liberal people, but I take them to a task bit too. I really shifted the tone of the opening thing to be kind of what's happening opposed to the BS so I could bring people in. Obviously, I'm not going to bring people in who are cult-like believers, but I was very conscious of the tone to be like, what's going on, as opposed to you Fs. So that was all choice. But I think to answer your question, it was well, let's deal with this now, and then we'll get to the other stuff. Newsweek asked Marc Maron, do you think comics have a responsibility to address the current political situation? Maron, no, absolutely not. And I don't think it's everyone's cup of tea. Look, comedy's a beautiful form where you and only you can decide what you want to do and dictate how you want to do it and have complete control and a lot of room to really decide who you want to be up there. It's a beautiful thing. So no, only a few people can do political humor. I happen to be a person that is culturally sensitive and relatively sophisticated in terms of politics, in terms of being able to talk about it. So it's always been kind of a component. But I think now things are meshing, and I think some things had to be dealt with in terms of how comics are being used or choosing to use their comedy as platforms for some sort of very unsavory stuff. I don't pull any punches on that stuff because for me, it's always been part of the cultural fabric. If you're going to a cultural commentator, which I am, only half of what I used to be, then everybody's fair game, including comics, politicians, or whatever. So no, I don't think it's the comics' responsibility to do anything but be funny. I kind of wish they had asked Marc Maron, how do you handle a mosquito in your basement studio? But maybe Marc doesn't have that problem. I do right now. So Marc Maron is the most popular comedian right now. The least popular comedian right now is, of course, the worst person who ever lived, Jay Leno. People are really upset with Jay Leno. All right, who are you going to pick in this fight? Because Rosie O'Donnell took a shot at Jay Leno. You got to pick. Are you on Team Jay or Team Rosie? You have to pick. No, you can't say, no, I'm not picking. No, you have to pick. You can be on Team Rosie or you can be on Team Jay. You pick. Rosie, from her home in Ireland, as she has abandoned the United States, went on Instagram. She was watching that new Netflix docuseries, Fit for TV, The Reality of the Biggest Loser. Have you seen this yet? That was a little Letterman move there, Mike Chisholm. You paying attention? I just did a little Dave there. Yeah, that was for you. In one Instagram post, Rosie O'Donnell, who lives in Ireland, shared her disappointment with Jay Leno, the worst person in the world who hosted The Tonight Show successfully for 22 years. She's not happy with his behavior towards the Biggest Loser contestants. She captioned her post, Jay Leno is a mean a ... I'm going to guess it rhymed with glass mole. Hashtag biggest loser documentary. Apparently in the documentary, which I have not watched, one of the contestants recalled appearing, quote, on a live taping of The Tonight Show. Interesting phrasing there. Did Jay do live or live taping? So just say taping or episode live taping. Get out of here. On a live taping of The Tonight Show where Jay Leno read her death threats aloud. I don't have any additional details there for you. See what else happens if I Google Jay Leno. Yep, a lot of Rosie. The Independent tells us, in the clip, Jay Leno read the death threats. One message threatened to hit the contestant with a car, to which Jay Leno, comedian hosting The Tonight Show, said she wants to kill you, but she won't use a swear word. The contestant has now said, I didn't know I was a villain until the show aired. Rosie said Jay Leno is a mean a-hole. Again, I'm not sure people understand what The Tonight Show is and what the job of the host is. Don't worry, Jay Leno, by this time next week, you won't be the worst comedian in the world. That will go to Tony Hinchcliffe. Once Kill Tony at Madison Square Garden airs on Netflix on Monday. The guests, Jim Norton, Mark Normand, Matt Rife, the comedy establishment, will get mad that Tony Hinchcliffe's Kill Tony even exists. I'm mad because I actually have to teach my college class over at Fairleigh Dickinson. Maybe Adam Sandler will be there. I hope so. And by the time I get home after teaching the college students and lecturing for 2.5 hours, I'm exhausted on Monday nights. TMZ has video of a woman getting thrown out of a Theo Von show. Theo was playing the Honda Center, home of the Anaheim Ducks. Apparently, a fan got too disruptive. TMZ reports the woman is in a revealing white top as she goes up the stairs, reveling in the crowd's jeers. With her arms raised above her head, she seems to fake laugh at one of Theo's jokes on the way out. Eyewitnesses told TMZ the woman appeared to be intoxicated and was repeatedly approached by security, who asked her to get off her phone. Eyewitnesses said she was yelling and arguing with security, who were trying to be discreet. Sources say Theo stopped performing twice to ask what was going on, then politely requested she leave. Sources say Theo even offered to have his assistant refund her ticket if she just left, but she didn't leave, so security helped her leave. Friend of the show, Dan Bublitz Jr., shared on Facebook, hey, did you see this? And I hadn't. What hadn't I seen? Helium Comedy Records are selling their sound recording copyrights. You can find this information on secure.songvest.com. The subheadline, 1,200 sound recordings from comedy label Helium Comedy Records. You can buy these sound recordings right now as I record. The price is $450,000 if you would like to get into the comedy recording business. The site says the offering contains over 1,200 sound recordings from spoken word comedy label Helium Comedy Records, featuring such performers as Mary Santora, Dustin Nickerson, and Tyler Fischel. Titles are listed via the link below. Now, what caught my eye as I looked at the links below, it's sorted by performers. And sure, you see Mary Santora and Dustin Nickerson. I have to make the font bigger. I can't read these tiny letters. I see Shane Gillis here, who in 2020 apparently got $66 worth of royalties. That's interesting. Let's see who else is on this list that you might know. Sean Patton, Ali Sadiq. If you'd like to learn more about royalties, there's all sorts of breakouts as to who is paying what is being paid. Even if you want to see the top title, which was Caleb Sinan's Being Poor. I'm trying a new mix today. I dropped my daughter at the airport, and I was listening back to yesterday's show, and I thought the show sounded a little bassy. Every time I go on a Zoom call, the Zoom program resets all the levels on my computer. So what happens here is I have a session. So what you're hearing right now is now labeled Session DCN August 2025, replacing a similarly named one with July in the title. And I use the same session over and over, so the show sounds the same. But I noticed whatever was going on, the theme music had gotten a little low. My voice has gotten a little bassy. I didn't tweak anything, but I think the Zoom did. So I went back in today and I boosted the music levels a little bit, added a little more high end to my voice, so hopefully it sounds better. I also, when I make the show, I edit on a program called Descript, and sometimes that darn thing adds some processing. Then I run the whole thing through a program called Auphonic so that the levels are all over the place, so the highs and the lows are kind of evened out. And by the time you do all that and you run it through a phone and CarPlay and you're driving on the highway, you never really know what it sounds like until you actually hear it. That's why when I go get my coffee in the morning, I listen back to myself just to hear how the show sounds. But hopefully this one sounds good. I won't actually know until tomorrow. If you missed yesterday's show, I'm now doing an 8th show for the paid subscribers. It is called DCN 8. It is in the Apple Podcast feed for premium subscribers. $5 a month, you get daily comedy news and almost all the other shows on the network ad-free. There's a couple episodes you don't get. The Plant Lady. We didn't have a deal with the Plant Lady. That's what the deal is there. But everything else, commercial-free. And now on the Daily Comedy News subscriber free, you not only get Daily Comedy News ad-free, you'll get DCN 8, where I talk about other stuff. I'm not bogarting any comedy. I explained that yesterday, but you might want to check that out. Over at the Fringe, they have announced the nominees for this year's festival. Best Comedy Show. The nominees are Dan Tiernan's All In, Ed Knight, You Old Mucker, Ian Smith's Foot Spa Half Empty, John Tothill, This Must Be Heaven, Katie Norris, Go West, Old Maid, Sam Jay's We the People, Sam Nicosetti's Baby Doomer, and Creepy Boys, Slugs. They also share the best newcomers. Now, the combination of people being newcomers at the Fringe and listeners to my podcast, I'm going to guess that Venn diagram is pretty small, so I'm not going to read you 15 names that you don't know. If you do listen every day, you understand that the Fringe apparently is the worst place on the earth. The Guardian's headline today, the hell of staying in Edinburgh during the Fringe Festival. Why does anyone go? Victoria Richards wrote, God, how I craved a hotel. But a hotel in Edinburgh in August for 2 nights was well over £1,000. It wasn't going to happen. Student digs might not be so bad, I reasoned, but then I got there, and my God, I'd forgotten the smell. That unique odor, the pervasive scent of teenage boy, of unwashed socks and unaired rooms and mold and badly ventilated showers and blocked toilets with suspiciously wet floors and basement flats without windows. And I didn't know you had to actually clean the carpet. And this gets even funnier, and I haven't pre-read this. This is great. I just saw a word out of the peripheral vision. Not wishing to spend more than a minute longer inside my damn cell than I had to, I launched myself at the Fringe. The only trouble was Oasis. We're playing in Edinburgh that weekend. Oasis, you guys ruined the whole comedy festival, you jerks, with your world tour. She writes, which makes the words of one Scottish man even more pertinent. He said, locals need to get past too, you know. And look, I get it. I hated English people being in Edinburgh as much as any local, and I was one of the main offenders. Unsightly swarms of summer tourists descending on the city in droves not only drives up the prices for everybody, but it makes walking in the street the simplest of acts, the only one that doesn't cost a fortune, unbearable, if not downright impossible. Yes, okay, so listen, lady, don't come to New York City between October 1st and February 1st, because that's how we feel about the tourists in Times Square. Do you have any idea how much non-sidewalk walking I do in New York City that time of year? I'm walking in the street alongside the parked cars. I'm a gold medalist jaywalker, okay? Because you guys walk so slow. Get off the sidewalk. Keep moving. Why did you stop? Ugh, I digress. Aideen McQueen is performing at the Fringe. Voicemag.co.uk caught up with Aideen, a stand-up comedian from Ireland and a woman who's been through just enough therapy to monetize her emotional chaos. Her one-woman show is Waiting for Texto, a play about heartbreak, grief, and healing in the age of WhatsApp, yoga, and passive-aggressive self-help memes. Okay, I'm going to ask you my daily question, dear listener. Are you paying attention? They asked Aideen if you had the power to change one thing about the Fringe to make it better, what would it be? What do you think she said? One guess. You only get one guess. Correct. She wants subsidized accommodation for artists. It's the biggest barrier to access, and it's exhausting to make meaningful, radical art while sharing a damp cupboard with a mime troupe. Chortle went to see Jess Robinson's show called Your Song. They say the premise cannot be simpler. A woman of 1,000 voices sings the greatest hits of Elton John in the style of various divas. Chortle says every track is a banger, but now given a new interpretation. Shakira's take on Sorry seems to be the hardest word as a hit, as is Amy Winehouse's Tiny Dancer and Kate Bush's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. It's a little wacky. And I guess that's enough for today. That is your comedy news for today. If you'd like the program without commercial interruptions, open up Apple Podcasts, click the banner. It says uninterrupted listening. You push that, and then some stuff will happen. It'll explain it to you. See you tomorrow.